Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's episode of the Daily Sib. It's I didn't actually come on yesterday. There was a few different reasons, but the long and the short of it was there was no episode yesterday. But we're back again today, and we're booked up for the next week and indeed for the next month. It's been an amazing amount of guests coming on the show with such different, diverse stories and backgrounds. And today, it's a good friend of mine. I've known George for quite a few years, probably about 7 or 8 years now. And we've done some businesses together and some other projects together. And so we know each other very well. He's up to this new disability union that we're going to learn all about today. And there's quite a lot of it that I'm yet to hear detail on. So I'm looking forward to learning a bit more about the latest project. But first and foremost, hello, George.
Hello everyone. Hi Martin.
How you doing, mate?
I'm good, thank you. Yourself?
Yeah, all good, all good. And
Good.
yeah, I mean, as always, if you could just kick us off, so people that haven't come across you before, just general sort of bio for a minute or two.
Okay, so I've spent most of my career doing all sorts of different bits and bobs. I've been involved in marketing. I was a freelance copywriter and sort of marketing consultant for about 10 years. About a year ago, I started a small marketing agency called Accessible Media Agency that employs disabled people, trains them up to do marketing jobs and provides them with employment. And sort of over the past 6 months, we've transitioned that to be something entirely different, which is a disability union. So our goal is to help disabled people organise so that they can protect and enhance their rights and sort of win more inclusion in society. So yeah.
Brilliant. It's a very good aim to have. And I know you've done a lot around sort of disability and inclusion. Obviously, you have a disability, but you've done various projects and client work over the years. It's quite interesting. I mean, we've both definitely had that sort of common interest around marketing and business as a sort of vehicle, as potentially changing narratives and empowering disabled people, that kind of stuff. And it obviously for you, it empowered you to have an income and have a job. But it'd be great to sort of hear the change you've been through the last year or two from that sort of very all out marketing company to obviously supporting other disabled people, but in a way moving away from pure business but into the sort of politics and the co-op side. Can you just chat through that evolution really that you've been going through?
Yeah, so it's interesting. I think it's something that I think it happens to a lot of people in general, but I would say for me as a disabled person, that transition really kind of embodies my maturity as my journey to maturity as a person. I
Yeah.
mean, obviously, maturity is something that it always happens. You're not suddenly mature.
You're not now mature, but yeah, you're still
No, yeah, but
maturing.
I am maturing like a fine wine or a cheese. But yeah, there's So I think that the thing to well, I'll tell you what, the easiest way is probably just to go a bit more in depth on kind of my story and evolution. So
Definitely.
I was aware as a teenager and even as a child that the traditional route of employment or academia or all that sort of stuff would be difficult for me. Obviously, I have congenital muscular dystrophy. My disability is quite severe. I have 24/7 care. I need people to look after me all day, every day. I can often I'm often ill. I don't have as much stamina as other people. So I was aware that I would need to find a career or an occupation that would, that I would be able to access and
Yeah.
where my disability wouldn't be a barrier to success. So I'm very, very lucky in that I have three extremely talented older brothers, all of whom are successful in their own fields. One is in science, has got a PhD in biochemistry. The other one runs some enormous division at McAfee, and the other one is he's always been an entrepreneur and a marketer, and he taught me sort of through my later teenage years and into my early 20s everything that he knew about business and marketing. And what I found was that that journey of entrepreneurship and learning about how to promote yourself and how to provide services to people, it taught me independence. It taught me how to value my own contribution and how I can really achieve anything I want to do if I work hard enough.
Mm.
Right? If I work hard enough. But the interesting thing about that is that belief can only take you so far, because the reality is, as somebody with a disability, we face barriers around us all day, every day, to accessing the things that other people access. And life is harder for us because obviously being disabled in itself gives you a different life experience, an experience where, as much as we might like to avoid it, we often have less energy or stamina than other people. We often have to put more effort into securing our basic needs, right? If I have to if I have to hire carers and run them as a manager and all that sort of stuff, that requires extra effort. If I have to go and I'm constantly chasing appointments for my wheelchair or whatever, that's extra effort. And so what's happened to me as I've matured is I've learned that as much as I can pretend that everything is up to me and it's all about how hard I work and it's all my personal responsibility, I am somebody who exists within a society that has its own contexts and rules and kind of structures that govern how it works. And the reality is, a lot of that for disabled people excludes us. It excludes us, and often a lot of the things that I enjoy, or the things that have enabled me to be independent, like personal assistance services, carers, like wheelchairs on the NHS, like dropped curbs, ramps, all these things were won by disabled people who kind of demanded them from society.
Yeah.
Who said, we want to be represented, we want to be included, we are valuable. Right? And the more I learned about that and thought about it, the more I realized that my worldview, where it was all up to me and all about my personal responsibility, was a bit flawed. And if I really wanted to do something to improve the world or help other people, probably the best use of my energy and time was to find a way to improve life for other disabled people, to find a way to empower them to just be more independent and, take more personal responsibility for themselves, but also to help them organise to win more inclusion in society. Because the reality is, all the things that you and I enjoy, or pretty much all of them, all the things that enable us to feel like included, integrated members of society, which to a degree we are now, right? All those things were won by people who demanded the right to have them. They banded together to demand the right for personal assistance services. They banded together to demand dropped curbs. In some instances, a lot of these things were won just by passionate individuals. And the more I learned about that, the more I thought, I'm not happy just teaching people how to look after themselves. I'm not happy just looking after myself. I want to find a way to give more, to help other disabled people get the blessings that I've had in my life. Things like personal assistance services, things like good enough healthcare to be able to be active in society, things like drop curbs, and also just to teach people how to advocate for their own needs.
Yeah.
And really what became evident to me is that we need to organise. Disabled people need to band together and teach each other how to get the most out of their life, how to live with a disability. And we need to band together so that we can help represent each other, so that we can go to people like the government or businesses and say, look, we want to have better representation, we want to be more integrated. into society. We want to be part of everything the same way that everybody else is, right? And so the way that people do that, if they have a trade or whatever, traditionally, is they join a union. They all band together, put money into a common pot, and then they work together to advocate to their bosses or to the government to win the rights and terms that they want to have, right, that they feel they deserve. And so what I want to do is create a disability union, so an organisation that is run by disabled people, for disabled people, and it exists really to do two things: to empower disabled people to achieve more in life and have, the kind of integrated, fulfilling life that they deserve, right? That's one thing. But also to represent disabled people, to the government, to businesses, to whoever, right? So that we have a unified voice. Because disabled people can be often be marginalised because we're more on the fringes, right? A lot of disabled people are much more disadvantaged than the average person, and we need somewhere where we can go to get representation on our own terms. We need somewhere we can go where people like us who have achieved the things that we want to achieve can help us get there.
So I want to ask you, and I get all the context and to a degree how the sort of answer, but I think for the viewers, some might say our charity is not that answer. What's your view?
Charities provide
loaded question.
That's a very loaded question. Charities provide a useful function,
yes,
but the reality is that they're outdated and they're ineffective because they don't truly represent disabled people. Most of them are run by able-bodied people. Most of them take funding from places that restrict their ability to speak out. So, for example, a lot of charities get government or local authority money to run the services that they provide. That makes it difficult for them to say what they really think about things like social care or universal credit, right? Or PIP, right? That sort of thing. A lot of charities are also funded by businesses, which makes it difficult for them to speak out about, employment conditions or what really needs to be done to integrate disabled people into the workplace, right? And it's also true that because charities are generally run sort of like businesses, so they're run by a board that decides its own decisions without really any input from the actual people to help, right? For that reason, they're generally not that representative, right? They provide a useful function. They do their best in, the way that they know how to improve the lot for disabled people. But the reality is it should be us that's making the decisions. It should be you and I. It should
nothing
be
about us without us.
Nothing about us without us. And that's what the Disability Union is going to be about. So it will be run, hopefully, primarily with membership dues. So people will pay a small monthly fee to be part of the union. And then we'll use that money to promote the union, to, eventually do what unions normally do, which is have a fighting fund for legal cases or whatever. We're already building links with some people in the legal profession to hopefully provide a certain degree of advocacy for free to disabled people. We'll also be providing services kind of similar to what charities do, but run by us. So, for example, we're about to set up a youth wing, which will teach young people how to be independent and help them advocate for causes that are important to them. There's a million things that it could do, but the important thing is that it will be run for us, by us.
Mm.
And it's going to have a national strategy and a local strategy. So my hope is that within sort of 3 to 5 years, wherever you live in the UK, you'll be able to go to a local disability union meeting, and you'll be able to take part in your local branch. You'll be able to help run it and advocate for the things that you need in your area. And it also just provides much needed social opportunities for disabled people. You know, it's often hard to fully relate to people who don't share your life experience.
Mm.
And I think it's an enormously rich thing to provide disabled people with somewhere they can go where they know they're going to be understood.
Mm.
You know, other people who share the same struggles, who can help them feel like they're not alone. Does that make sense?
Does do. No, I'm blown away, George. Like, I know we spoke about it quite a while, maybe a year ago, that it was bubbling around as an idea in your head. And I appreciate there's a lot, to execute and to do. I'm sure there's a journey, shall we say, ahead, but you've explained that so articulately and impassioned, and it strikes so many chords for me on a personal level. The fact that, and I guess, like, with the charity stuff, I have to be careful not to sound like there's a negative campaign on my side going on, because I work with some of the charities. I think there's a lot of good work, but the fundamental issue you've described is still so true and so problematic, that if you don't have disabled people creating the vision and being the leadership for its own community, it's just wrong. Like, it's just not the right way around to do things. And it'd be great to see some change, and there are some charities that are trying to address this, but there's just a massive need and an opportunity for everything that this disability union that you're setting up is there. And as you say, it's the legal side, which Gavin has commented on Facebook, saying, yes, another great win. Legal support is very much needed, as charities do not do this. So you've got the certain things that just aren't out there, but you've got those other things that are just being cried out for to be done in a more different and modern way. Chris on Facebook, I love the idea of a union, a central place for advocates. When I've gone to charities to support me financially, I was met with deaf ears, but a pat on the back. At times it is so Monty Python-esque, the People's Front of Judea, etc.
Yes. It's this is the thing, you see. So, I mean, it is. I think it's the most important thing for the disabled people's movement, that regardless of whether it's the union or something else, there has to be a central place where disabled people can band together and can work with each other, and that there needs to be a somewhere where they can go to get the training and support they need to live the lives they want to live. Because we face very unique challenges. It doesn't matter what your disability is. It doesn't matter whether you need, 24/7 care support, you can't move your arms and legs, and you're in a wheelchair all day, or whether you have, speech impediment, or you're blind, or deaf, or have mental health issues. The problems we face are very similar.
Yeah.
Right? We all have a lot
It's
in
barriers,
common.
isn't it? Barriers to society.
It's barriers. Yeah, it's barriers. And the truth is that, society has to change, but we also need to find ways to empower ourselves.
Oh, mate.
It has to be both.
It's so true. Because when you did the social model chat of the barriers, not you, but when anyone does it, like, it's so easy to go, there are barriers, I can't access society, so I'm going to give up and be a victim. And that isn't helpful either, because you have to challenge and push for those solutions, right?
You do. I mean, the social model, I think, it was a necessary evolution in terms of disability theory and rights and all that sort of stuff. But I think the reality is it needs to evolve. It needs to evolve because, like you say, it's astonishingly disempowering. Because it's completely true. We are faced with barriers from society and from other people's opinions and all these things that, in many ways, are impossible for us to change on an individual level.
Yeah.
But also, if you want to do the things you want to do in life and you're disabled, the reality is, if you actually want to have them, you have to be better organized, more plucky, more confident, more determined than somebody who isn't disabled.
Yeah.
And there needs to be an organization that can support you through that and
Yeah.
help you do that, while at the same time helping you advocate to change society.
Mm.
It has to be both. It has to be both, because otherwise we won't get anywhere. And
Mm.
actually, if you look at how society is changed, it's changed by individuals and groups that manage to go above and beyond the norm. I
Mm.
mean, there is an excellent example. Everybody who is disabled should watch Crip Camp on
Oh, I
Netflix.
love that
Crip,
film.
as in
Yeah.
cripple.
Yeah.
That film is unbelievable, and it was so validating to watch that around the time I was getting properly involved in starting the union,
Yeah.
because I thought, yes, this is it. This is how it needs to be done. It
Mm-hmm.
actually has existed before, just not quite in the same way.
Well,
When
yeah,
I
the
saw that,
world's
I knew it
changed
would
and
work.
we've got new tools and
Yeah,
newer strategies, but the core essence is the same, isn't it?
yeah. And it's like to watch that. I've never watched anything that made me feel that empowered. I watched that and I was like, yes, I
Mm.
can do it. This is it.
Yeah.
It is all about us working together,
Yeah.
right? And I think it is the world needs people to come together and fight for shared causes.
Mm.
If we don't do that on a global level, we're all gonna die. Climate change is murderous if we don't all band together and learn to cooperate
Yeah.
rather than compete with each other.
Yeah.
And so I think any initiative that does that in any capacity is extremely important,
Mm-hmm.
like
Yeah.
just existentially important.
Yeah.
Which makes me even more passionate about making it happen. I mean, I must admit, I'm really heartened and surprised by how enthusiastic people are about it.
Oh, it's been
I
the
thought it
world's
would be
calling out for it, and disabled people are calling out for it. I mean, no, I've been doing this daily sib for I think 2 months at least, possibly longer, and I've had
yeah,
people from all different parts of the sort of disability inclusion, disability rights world, and yeah, I've learned a ton. But in a way, what I've learned is what you're doing is what's needed. Like, if you look at all the interviews, it all leads back to we have to unify as a community, whether as disabled talent in the workforce, whether government policy around health and social care, whether as disabled consumers for businesses to be better, whether like all the different parts of life. It's about having that collective voice. But it feels like since the 90s, where we got the DDA and the sort of first civil rights for disabled people and legal rights, it's sort of all gone a bit separate and it's divided in different ways as a community, and it's trying to find that commonality is so important.
I mean, you're absolutely right. And I think one of the important things for us to do as a community now is to realise that all struggles for liberty or to overcome oppression or whatever, they all have their own tradition, and they all go through phases of expansion and contraction and renewal and all that sort of stuff. And
Mm.
if you look at something like, for example, the Black Lives Matter movement now, which is, I think, the most positive thing I've seen in years, right? If you
Mm.
look at that, you can see that the civil rights movement for black people is something that has it's gone through phases of expansion and contraction and consolidation, and it's at the point now where rather than being a minority of people who are marching for something that is absolutely right, but not accepted by society. It's now at a point where society in general accepts that racism is completely unacceptable, right? It's just that it is the structure of society, our laws and the way our police forces and all that sort of stuff are set up haven't caught up with the reality.
Yeah.
So you can see that actually these periods of exciting change and consolidation are necessary. And where we're at now in the disability community is we're at a point where we've won some rights, some wonderful things happened, but now things are slipping backwards slightly.
Yeah.
So we need to come back together and push for that next level of change.
Yeah.
And I think that this next level will be transformative for disabled people. There is so many things coming together that will enable us to achieve an enormous amount, I think. You know, the internet has completely changed the game for disability organisation.
Yeah.
Because you don't have to leave your house
Yeah.
to be part of a movement. You
Yeah,
don't
well,
have to be able to get out of bed.
You know, George, with the
You know
stuff
what I
I've
mean?
been doing on Purple Goat, we're not taking it so down a political route. It's a marketing agency, but the social mission is still around having that representation of disabled people in advertising, but basically getting brands to wake up to the market side. So there's obviously a lot of similarities of our, you know, opinions and philosophies. And as you say, with the internet and with the sort of influencer world that has, you know, come through,
Yeah.
I do feel like it's newer tools that are enabling us to come together and to be more unified. But obviously there's a double-edged sword to the internet, because you do get that sort of echo chamber of people within their own disability or within their own different political groups. And how do you see sort of overcoming those types of differences?
Well, the reality is, I mean, there's a very important lesson that I learned a few years ago, and that is how you do one thing is how you do everything, right? So if we're asking to be included in society, right, then we as a group have to be inclusive of everybody and all the different communities that are represented by us, all the different ways that people think, and we have to, and this is true for humanity in general, right? We have to learn to cooperate rather than compete.
Yeah.
And it is a natural human inclination to cooperate. The only reason we exist is because we've been highly successful at working together to form societies, right? And so, but now we live in a world where it's all about competing with each other, right? And we have to learn once more to cooperate with each other and accept each other and help each other. And I mean, most of the things that people argue about in the different disability communities and in politics and business, most of the different philosophies and arguments and all these things are actually around tiny details, small things. Sometimes the small things matter a lot, but I think most of the time it's actually the big problem is that people don't feel heard. And I think the more we learn to hear each other and work together, the more we'll see that we have far more in common than divides us.
Yeah.
And the more we'll be able to achieve things together, I think.
Yeah, agreed. Listen, George, I'm going to go to some of the comments coming in here. So back to your point about maturity, you said about, you know, about wine and cheese. So Gavin saying I would stick to the wine cheese may not be a great analogy. And he was saying, love it, great work. I need to find out more. Mandy was saying, yes, totally agree with what you were saying. Run by the disabled people. So yeah, lots of very agreeable comments coming through. A couple more here. Just going back up. Sorry, 1 second.
Sure.
Yeah. Gavin, are you concerned that as much as this is required, that there are so many incredibly well-established disabled champions that they may push back against this?
I'm not concerned about that at all. I mean, the reality is that, you know, we're not going to do everything right. And again, we need to talk more about why the union is going to be a cooperative. But the reality is that I welcome feedback from anybody, right? And people always, if you listen to people, they always have some valuable message for you, right? And I want everybody to feel they can be part of the union. I think it's important that it will have very significant philosophical kind of red lines, I think, but those will have to be decided by the members once the fund is set up properly. It's going to be completely democratic, run by the members for the members, right? So I think the important thing is that it becomes an expression of the disability community. It's an active, living, breathing expression of what people believe. And obviously, you know, we all have differences in our beliefs. The important thing is that we will have a central core message decided by the community that expresses the general will of everybody involved. And I think when you're okay, when you're willing to listen to people, and when you're polite to them, and you know you actually engage with them rather than ignoring them or having a go at them, feeling defensive because somebody's challenged your opinion, right? I think the more open we are to criticism and discussion, the more we'll be able to bring people into the fold. And you know, I don't want anything that everybody else doesn't also want.
Yeah.
You know, I think we can all agree that more inclusion in society is better. I think we can all agree that more support for independent living is a good thing. I think, you know, I think we can all agree that a safer, stronger welfare net is better. You know, I don't think there are many things that I don't think there are many core principles that we would ever disagree on. And I'm not here to threaten. This is the important thing. The union isn't there to threaten anybody or anybody's influence. We're there to amplify.
I was going to say it's to bring that influence and amplify, isn't it?
Yeah, so nobody should feel threatened or uncomfortable about it. We want to welcome everybody's input.
Yeah, that's well said, George. Simon saying from LinkedIn, in total agreement with all that's been said, RE the social model, it should feature in staff inductions and ongoing disability equality training. Chris is saying it may help government to work with the union rather than numerous advocates. Within the union, there can be specialism advocates like transport, education, employment, etc. Any thoughts on that, George?
Absolutely. So I think this is something that's incredibly important. So in many ways, a lot of people feel that the British government over the past 10 or 12 years or whatever has been hostile to disabled people. Now, I think it's possible to agree that that is the case. But what I think is really important is we realise that whatever people's philosophical point of view, in general, most people are nice people. And they don't have anything against us, right? Inclusion is a social problem that emanates from, you know, old-fashioned points of view, etc. Right? We need to have. The thing about a union is, yes, if it has a mass membership, it will be able to engage with the government, and it will be able to help them come up with better policies and, you know, support disabled people better. And I don't believe for a second that the individuals in government don't all sort of want to help at some level, even if the ways they're going about it don't work, right? I don't believe for a second that most individuals are bad people, for example. So, yes, we will absolutely help with the government and we'll have advocates in all the different areas, but we also have to be able to challenge anybody who does something that is flagrantly wrong against disabled people. So I think again, this is an important thing about attitude. It's about being open to everybody, It's about being courteous and kind and honest, but also having a strong point of view, having red lines, being able to say, I appreciate that you're trying to do the right thing, but this is not the right thing.
Yeah.
Do you see what I mean?
Well, and because
So, you
we
know,
as disabled people know that, like as you say, if you bring that voice cumulatively of disabled people, you can disagree because you're saying this isn't working for millions of people.
absolutely. Yeah, and I mean, it's you know, the government, I think in a lot of ways they go about things completely wrong with disabled people. But if you talk to the individuals involved, MPs and stuff, philosophically, they believe they're doing the right thing.
Mm.
They believe the things they're doing will help disabled people. They're not, they're just wrong. And I mean, I think education, again, is the key thing. It's working together to understand why people have the points of view they do and helping to change their mind.
Mm.
That's all it is. That's all it is.
There's quite a lot. You've got a lot of reactions coming in and comments and questions. So I'm not going to bring all of them up because some are similar. So I'll try and draw out the theme. I think so. Gavin's essentially saying that there are some challenges as to that unifying side, but should it be successful, it's absolutely what is needed, and he'd like to get involved and support you. So we'll do a call to action at the end about how people can get in touch.
Yeah.
But in terms of some other questions and comments, I think Iggy might have missed the earlier beginning when you mentioned that it would be funded by the community, that because he's talking about how with grants and funding, it often comes with a caveat that you can't speak out against government, which is what you were talking about. So obviously the answer is that it's not funded by government, so that it's independent of government. I'm more just I think that addresses Iggy's question there, but I'm sort of interested on the economics, like how much would you charge or need to charge, and how many people would need to sign up, because some of the services are obviously going to cost money as well, aren't they, to run?
Yeah, so in the interest of complete transparency, we will be pursuing funding to start up as a cooperative.
Right.
So we will be getting seed money. We will be getting seed money, but I won't take money from anybody who is going to limit our ability to speak out. There's no point in doing it if we're limited in that capacity. And I think I've done some investigation into it, and it is very possible to get startup funding for a co-op. The important thing is that you can show that the organisation will be self-funding within sort of 1 or 2 years.
Yeah.
In terms of membership dues, I think part of the reason that we need startup funding is so that we have leeway to test different membership dues, basically, to see what people are able to afford, and to be able to have some time and experience to do financial projections. But at the moment, I believe people can join now, actually, if they want to join. But we have 3 levels of membership at the moment. For people who are unwaged or students or retired, I think it's about £5 a month.
Mm-hmm. How much? Sorry, £5?
£5, yeah.
£5, yeah.
If you're in full-time employment, I believe it's £7. And we also have a solidarity level. So if you're able to contribute more and just feel like you want to give the union a bit of extra help, then you can pay £14 a month. That's kind of what we've done at the moment. I didn't know. Obviously, there isn't really anything else like this. So I've set the we decided to set the prices at a level that would be eminently affordable, and also is kind of it's kind of analogous to, similar to how much a trade union would charge. Slightly less. So I think it's a reasonable model to start with, and it's just about seeing how many people are interested. The thing. See, philosophically, it's important to me that as many people as possible who are involved with and work for the union get paid. I
Yeah.
don't want it to be run exclusively by volunteers. But that said, the amount of goodwill that we've had, the number of people who want to volunteer, it is becoming, I'm getting people who I'm offering them money and they're saying, no, I don't want your money, I want to volunteer.
Wow.
Right? I just want to help. Which is astounding. But yeah, so I think it will be an evolving thing, the membership dues. I think the most likely ultimate scenario is that we will ask people to self-declare their annual income, and then the membership due will be based on that.
Right.
Probably some unions do that, and I think that's most likely the fairest way to do it, so that people are paying in accordance with their means. If that makes sense.
Yeah,
But
yeah. I appreciate it's a new thing, and there's a lot of things you got to work out. And yeah, so no one. I'm certainly not, going to hold you to all these numbers, but it's interesting more the philosophy and the thinking behind it at the moment.
Yeah. I mean, the really important thing for me is that it's accessible to everybody in terms of its pricing.
Yeah.
Nobody can be. I refuse to have a situation where people are priced out of it.
Yeah.
Because it's there to represent, at the end of the day, the most disadvantaged.
Yeah.
So everybody needs to be able to access it.
On that economic side, if take a tenner a month, which I totally understand is not affordable for all people, but just if you took 10 million, if you charge 10 million a month, and that was from every single disabled person in the UK, 14 million, that would be 140 million, which would cover a lot of legal aid and youth groups and like everything you would ever want to do. So
Exactly.
it's interesting that if you get the groundswell of the numbers of people buying into it financially, but emotionally and generally just being behind the idea, then like you can see it, the funding comes quite easily. It's obviously getting everyone to buy into it will be a challenge as well.
Absolutely. I mean, there is also another side to it, which we are not currently setting up, but which will be pursued in the future, and that is so organising disabled people on their own is not enough to win the rights and support that I think we need.
Yeah, that's a good point, actually.
We also need to organise the people who care for us and support us. So at the moment, if you're a care worker, you can join a trade union. Probably the best one to join if you're a social care worker is Unison, because they have, general support for they have quite a lot of support for care workers, but it's not a huge focus of theirs, and it doesn't involve disabled people. So what I want to do eventually is have and there's general agreement among the people who are helping to start it up that this is necessary, is that eventually we will have a wing of the union that is there to represent paid and unpaid carers, and we will organise that like a traditional trade union. So we'll eventually have a union representative on the boards of companies or on social care stuff, social care boards, all that kind of thing. So it's about winning real representation for people. So yeah, I think that's important to mention, because one of the most awful things about the situation with disability at the moment is, let's say you have a disabled child, right? And even if there's two of you, even if you're two parents who are working, affording all the extra disability costs for a child who is seriously disabled and providing that child care is an almost impossible task. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Almost impossible task.
Yeah, so there's a lot of peripheral. A bit just to say, George, we're gonna have to wrap up in about 5 minutes. And there's a couple of things I want to ask you, but I think your point is around those peripheral issues. It's not just affecting disabled people, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
No, I totally agree. And I was thinking with Brexit, there is a lot of personal care assistants that fly in and out for shifts or are just from, other parts of Europe. And so that's a sort of issue that Unison might not be aware of, that affecting the social care workers, but also that policy is affecting disabled people as well.
Yeah, it's going to cripple the social care system. It's going to ruin it. There's going to have to be root and branch reform of social care in the next 10 years, I think.
Yeah. The reason I wanted to just get another thing in before we finish is that Iggy has said about Will calling it a union cause issues, as it seemed to be a little bit leftist, and Chris has put it about will it be apolitical.
So we will not be aligned to any political party.
Okay.
The reality of the union is that it takes a political position because it's about women's rights and all that sort of stuff. But the position of the union will be decided by the members.
Yeah.
So as soon as we have enough members to have a sovereign conference or have some kind of voting arrangement, it will happen.
Yeah.
And the union will reflect the views of the members. So there is absolutely no way it will be affiliated to any political party. I mean, I'm to be completely transparent, I'm a member of the Labour Party. I ran to be MP for Winchester in the election. But as someone who is setting up this union, the fact that I'm a member of the Labour Party makes me even more determined that it is not associated with any political party, because we have to be able to, for example, hold all parties to account.
Yeah.
If the Labour Party do something that is not very nice to disabled people, the union has to be able to shout about it.
Yeah.
It can't be a patronage-based thing where we're really friendly with one group of people and don't like the other group of people. That's not how it works.
Yeah.
This is about is improving material conditions and inclusion for disabled people.
So in a way like that, comes back to your point, we're talking about the economics, that it will rely on the sort of individual support and even not maybe, I don't know if you use the word donors. I mean, it's membership, it's membership. But you could imagine there are people that just philosophically want to support such an initiative that don't have a disability, and they're maybe not the parent of a disabled child, and they're not a social care worker, but that the individuals could still support the co-op, right?
Yeah, there will be a mechanism for them to do that. I think it's important to point out that if somebody is not disabled and does not have a connection to an individual disabled person, they won't be able to have voting rights.
Yeah.
Because that's the important distinction. So there will be a mechanism for anybody to be able to donate to the union if that's what they want to do.
Yeah.
But they will not have voting rights.
Unless they're then asking for, if the money has conditions, then also you might say no. Back to the previous point, yeah.
Yeah, so it would be the same as there'd be somewhere on the website where you can go and donate if you want to donate. But that will in no way give you rights whatsoever.
Yeah,
I think that's extremely important.
Yeah, wow, that's been really, really fascinating, George, and it certainly struck a chord with everyone watching. So how can people best get in touch if they want to know more or sign up or just get involved to help you?
So if you go to disabilityunion.co.uk, disabilityunion.co.uk, you can see all about us there. There's links to our social media. I believe you can sign up for a membership now. The technology is still being, I think, tweaked, but it should work. You can certainly follow us on social media. If you search for Disability Union, there's a very new nascent Facebook page you can follow. There's also a Facebook group. We've got about 200 members. It's just about, basically, it's a peer support group that anybody can join. You don't have to be part of the union. It's just there to offer advice and help to each other. I'll post a link to that and the website in the comments if that would be helpful.
Yeah, definitely do on my Facebook and LinkedIn, where a lot of the viewership and the comments come. But if you can add it to Twitter and YouTube if you want to as well.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, so the best place I would say is to go to disabilityunion.co.uk. Or you can find me on Facebook. I'm George Baker. I'll comment on everything so you can see.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you want to get involved, drop us a line, however you want. We also have a telephone number which is listed on the website. Anybody can ring that 9 to 5 Monday to Friday. That'll be answered, and somebody will answer that and take care of any questions.
Brilliant, amazing stuff. Well, yeah, I think it's you've got a lot done. Like, got the website. I've got 200 people in the Facebook group. Lots of, a lot of ideas have been really well formed, and I also appreciate you've got a fair bit more to do and to go. But I think it's conversations like this that raise awareness, and a lot of people are hopefully going to get in touch and support you afterwards. And yeah, just good luck with it all, George.
Oh, thank you very much, Martin. It's been really good fun talking to you. It's very validating to, the more people I hear who say this is a good idea, the more passionate it makes me about, making it happen.
Yeah, no,
So,
for sure. For sure.
Exciting.
All right. Well, yeah, everyone, thanks for watching and for all your comments and questions. Do pick up with George afterwards if you've got other things you want to share or ask. And yep, I'll be back tomorrow. I've checked and remembered who is on tomorrow, and it's Roberto Castiglione, who is I call him the godfather of air travel. So we're going to be talking about air travel in general, but obviously within the COVID-19 situation, how that's going to affect disabled passengers. So he's a good guy. I'm looking forward to that tomorrow. But yeah, thanks again, George, and I'll see you all soon. Bye-bye for now.
Thanks, bye everyone. Bye, Martin.